Well, this is going to be a really bad Tyrion voice, because they're all bad,
you know what?
but this is
I've
not
listened to several hours of the audiobooks, and I doubt it's worse than the Tyrion voice in those audiobooks. Holy shit.
I was on a Facebook page today where they were discussing that, and everyone was like, no, he's bad and inconsistent. And I'm like, oh, good, I thought it was just me, and I thought people liked him because he's like this Shakespearean actor. He was originally going to play Pycelle.
Oh, wow.
And then, now he's died.
But then they got Veers.
All right.
Winter is coming.
Where are my dragons?
In the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die.
The things I do for love.
A Lannister always pays his debts.
Chaos is a ladder.
Hodor. You know nothing, Jon Snow.
We
are the Rewatchers on the wall.
You love your children. Is Stewie?
It's like you're doing
I'm doing it as Stewie. That's where we go.
Which is funny because he's just another small man.
Oh, I'm a bad person. Oh, most voices I'm like, this is bad, but I like where it's going. I don't know what to do with Tyrion. I'll try again later. Whatever. You love your children. I can't do it. I'm doing the Stewie voice.
Is this your only redeeming quality line? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yes.
Okay.
No. Maybe I can do it. Maybe I'll just do it in my voice. Nope, I can't do it. You love your children. It's your only redeeming quality. No,
that one was Trump. That was straight Trump.
Oh, boy.
You love your children. I can't do
All
Trump.
right.
Ask not what your children can do for you.
You love your children. It's the only redeeming quality. All right.
You love your children. Oh, it's the only redeeming quality.
That in your cheekbones.
All right, here goes nothing. You love your children. It's your only redeeming quality. There's just nothing I can do.
How many question marks did you write after it?
Oh, boy. All right, we're just not doing it.
Oh,
ready?
Wow.
Season 2! Oh, boy. The whole world is expanding. Mitchell Marshall, Tyler Harrison, Tyler McKinley. Season 2 of Game of Thrones, starting here on episode 4 of our Game of Thrones podcast. Which, I'm going to be honest, we're recording this without a title, but you will have known a title for all 3 episodes. I felt like that honestly needed to get out there.
Yeah, you looked like it was really weighing you down. I'm glad you got it off.
It was very frustrating.
I feel relieved.
Oh, the burden is gone.
I also
Now
feel
they know we've been
nameless.
nameless. Yeah. We're still
All right,
fair.
I'm hyped for
In
this.
front of our new friends.
I don't know if I love season 2, but I forgot how much like the world jumps right away. We've got all these new things. Tyler, give us the rundown.
Here's what happened in Game of Thrones. It's Joff's birthday, and all he wants is blood, but Sansa and the Hound curb his idiocy for a moment. Tyrion drops the bomb that he is acting hand of the king. It's official. Summer is over. Tyrion tells Cersei how stupid she is, and then he finds out Arya is missing. Cersei might get fired. Bran has wolf dreams. There's a red comet over Westeros, and no one agrees what it means. Osha says it has to do with dragons. In Mosaic fashion, Daenerys wanders in the desert, and she sends 3 riders out to find anything. The Night's Watch stays with Craster, yet another incestuous, gross pedophile. Mance Rayder used to be part of the Night's Watch, is now building an army. Craster hates Jon. Melisandre performs a ritual to make Stannis the chosen one. Stannis sends letters about Lannister incest to everyone in the world. An old man tries to poison Melisandre and dies. Robb visits Jaime and lets his wolf play with him. Tyrion and Shae are officially confirmed as the second healthiest romantic relationship we have seen in this show. Cersei asserts dominance over Littlefinger. Robb dictates his terms for peace and sends Catelyn to talk with Renly. Theon goes home in order to bring the strength of the Iron Islands to Robb's aid. Joff redecorates, gets slapped by his mom, and threatens his mom. In Mosaic fashion, the city guard kills all the Baratheon bastards. The city guard catches up to Arya and Gendry. Yoren turns them away. Varys is visiting with Shae. She is very chatty. Tyrion is very wary, and Varys is very Varysy. Tyrion makes it clear he knows how the game is played. Cersei tears up Robb's demands. The Watch is asking for more men. Sam white knights one of Craster's daughters. He wants to take her with them because she is pregnant. Dany and the Khalasar are miserable. Her rider said is returned in his own saddlebags. Roz is sad because she saw a baby murdered. Littlefinger is sad because she isn't making him any money. Tyrion eats with Janos Slynt, then exiles exiles him. Arya interrogates Gendry. Gendry knows she is a girl. Arya spills all the tea. Theon hitchhikes to the castle with a woman that he feels up. Spoiler alert, it's his sister, because accidental incest is just as possible as conscious incest in Westeros. Davos preaches the good word of Stannis Baratheon. Cersei is mad that Janis was exiled. Joffrey is the one who ordered the Baratheon bastards murdered. Melisandre wants to give Stannis a male heir. Jon sees Craster take a baby into the woods, and then something else takes it. He is attacked by Craster. Sam gives Tilly a token and promises to come back for her with a tip of his fedora. Bran tells Luwin about his wolf dreams. Luwin is sad he never got his Hogwarts letter. Renly is married to Marjorie Tyrell, the sister of his true love, Loras Tyrell. Brienne beats Loras in competition and gets a spot on the Kingsguard. Renly tells Catelyn he will bring her Joffrey's head. Theon confronts his sister Yara, and Balon lays out his plan to take the north. Shae gets cabin fever. Sansa is a prisoner wherever she goes. Shae becomes Sansa's new handmaiden. Tyrion tells Pycelle, Varys, and Littlefinger 3 different versions of the same story, and finds out that Pycelle is sharing information with Cersei. Loras is jealous of Brienne. Marjorie is not jealous of Loras. Super not jealous, in fact. Theon does not warn Robb of the Iron Islands plan. Littlefinger confronts Tyrion. Tyrion confronts Pycelle. Varys and Tyrion bond. Yoren tells Arya the story of his brother dying. The city guard comes back. Yoren is killed. The city guard uses needle to kill yet another young boy who Arya tells the city guard is Gendry. Lannister guard really commits to a fart joke right before being attacked by Robb Direwolf. Robb is trying to fight an honorable war and has a conversation to that effect with a nurse named Talissa. I don't know if that's important or not. Joffrey tortures Sansa because Robb is kicking Lannister ass. Tyrion intervenes. Tyrion respects that Sansa is playing the game. Tyrion gets Joffrey a name day gift. Joffrey is a psychopath. Littlefinger visits Renly's camp. He lets Marjorie know that he knows about their odd marital arrangement. He brings Ned's bones to Catelyn and tells her that Sansa and Arya are safe. One of Dany's riders has found Karth. Arya and Gendry are taken prisoner to Harrenhal, where the Mountain has set up shop. All the prisoners are being tortured as the Mountain is looking for the Brotherhood. Stannis meets with Renly and offers him a position on his council or death. Dany reaches Karth, will not show her dragons, and only gets into the city because Zaro vouches for them with his blood. Gendry is being interrogated when Tywin shows up, tells everyone Arya is a girl, but still does not know she is a Stark. Tyrion blackmails Lansa Lannister, and Davos smuggles Melisandre ashore, where she gives birth to something.
To the smoke monster from Lost.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
And what is the most wonderful scene for your parents to walk in on?
Yeah, that wins the award every year.
I think it depends on your parents. I think the smoke birth, but you could just say it's
also,
the Animal Channel.
Just prostitutes beating each other
Oh,
as a
yeah.
14-year-old yells harder is pretty bad.
And he's not even getting off to it. He's just a bad person.
Yeah,
He
that's
just
what I
wants people to
knew.
hurt.
There was no way for me to connect with Joffrey. The idea that at 14 years old there are 2 naked women, that's what he plans to do, that's messed up. That guy, there's no saving this kid. He is done for.
He just doesn't. Oh, yeah, it's pretty terrible.
Man, a lot happened in those 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Holy
This world explodes in 4 episodes.
It's funny because a lot happens and also not a lot happens. It's just that now the things happening are spread out over so many more people at this point,
Yeah.
and you're introduced to so many new people, which, let's just say, Stannis Baratheon, my favorite English teacher in Westeros.
Oh yeah,
That dude is a librarian or an English teacher. There's no way. That guy
he's a good
becomes
actor.
king.
You'll start to notice him in other things. You'll be like, yeah, Stannis Baratheon.
I like him a lot.
Yeah,
That
no, he's good.
characterization, it's like a character we have not seen in Game of Thrones, because he is very honorable, like someone like Ned Stark. Like I can very much see why Ned was like, Stannis has to be king, not only because of honor, but like they are very like-minded individuals. Like Stannis doesn't even want to slander the Lannisters really when he's like dictating the letter about them being
that scene
friends.
is wonderful because it's like you get who he is
so well.
very quickly in a really solid way
He-
of just and it's like it's humorous but not in the scene context. Like it's humorous for
Right.
the audience, but just for them it's just like this is who he is. And he's like, don't say my beloved brother. I never loved him. He never loved me. Cross it out. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like,
He's almost, and this is not a term we use anymore, so forgive the non-political correctness, like Asperger's. He's so by the rule, and he's so,
Yeah.
frank about emotion or lack of emotion, and that's why emotion will show, and it's interesting when it does, but right now, like, he really wants this power, and he's all of a sudden put his, which might be out of character for him, put all all of his eggs in one basket with the Lord of Light.
Well, and
before
that's-
we...
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, before we go too hard into Stannis, I wanted to ask, between the Iron... So this is the War of the Five Kings. That's just the name of the war that's going to happen. I don't think they've said that yet. But because originally you think, hey, you have Robb and you have Joffrey. And you knew there were these other factions or these other claims. But now we have 5 legitimate people saying they're going to be king. So out of the 3 new ones, Renly, who is hooked up with a very rich and powerful family, Loras Tyrell and Marjorie Tyrell, his butt buddy and his wife. Those are separate things. And then you have Stannis, and then you have the Iron Islands with the Father of the Year. Which of those storylines is most intriguing to you right now?
It's hard. I mean, I think there's so much that happens at King's Landing. Like, King's Landing is still the place to be.
Yeah.
As far as, like... Because you just have the most characters talking to each other and hanging out with each other. You know what I mean? Like, it's... so that stuff is really interesting to me. Like, the new characters that are introduced, I can see that I will be more interested in them at some point.
Yeah.
But it is it's setting up a lot of stuff. And because Renly, you know Renly's secret that he has not told anyone. But then in these episodes, it's also introduced that, like, it's not a very well kept secret.
No,
like,
it's like everyone knows, but
right.
no one really
it's kind
says
of
it.
like Jaime and Cersei sleeping
Yeah.
with each other at this point, because
Yeah.
everyone's talking about it.
And it doesn't matter until you're into a certain position.
Right.
As much. I don't think there's this massive taboo around homosexuality as much as it's like there was, and now if you're someone important, it can be used against you.
Right.
Yeah, I think later, like, it's not illegal in this world.
It's a sin, so it just depends on the influence of the
guess.
faith of the Seven, which is the main.
Because I know later on,
right?
Joffrey's like, I thought about making this crime illegal. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so I know that's not it. So, but it is very frowned upon.
Yeah.
There, and I mean, unless you're in Dorne, but so it's like the Michael Jackson scandal. Everyone knows. We just don't have proof.
We don't have enough proof to shame his legacy. People were still like, no, we're allowed to be really sad that he died.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's start with the Baratheon, because he is a super interesting character. Oh. He's got Melisandre, who is his priestess of the light of God. What do you call him again?
The Lord of
Light. The Lord of Light.
Lord of Light is what he's called, but I thought the religion also had a name, and I'm trying to remember what it is.
Oh, Fire Church. I think it's just called Fire Church.
But she is now saying that they burn the representation of they have not talked about the 7 very much. You hear the number 7 and you hear about it a little bit, but the 7-pointed star is the main religion of a lot of Southern families, and and it's
also, I mean, it's also painted as kind of the more archaic thing, because that's like,
it's the Catholic Church.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, because you have the old gods of the North, and then you have these guys, and religion is a big part of this and will continue to grow, but now we have 3 that are going to have influence. So by burning the representative of the mother and the warrior and everything, like, they burn these 7, and they are ready to give him this sword and say that he is Azor Ahai, the chosen one to come again.
Yeah, which I love, because that is the first time we see Stannis Baratheon, and then immediately after we see him grammar Naziing a letter that he's dictating, and like, the idea of him participating in this very like magical. I mean, this is like one of those moments that feels more like, if not directly magical, at least like very ritualistic, and like coming from like a mind that believes in a much higher power, and then to see who he actually is, it actually is a great intro to him, because it's like, this guy will do anything.
Yeah.
This is the last thing this guy wants to do, is stand on a beach and pull a flaming sword out of a shitty statue that's on fire, but he'll do it if it means he can be king.
And it's an interesting power thirst, because on one hand, it's correct. He should, by laws of this land, he should be king. If Joffrey is a bastard, which Joffrey is a bastard in several ways.
So many ways.
And it's interesting to see what he's willing to do, because right now, the way it's kind of shown to us is the Lannister forces are right now fighting Robb. Robb is the underdog numbers wise, but then you have the Tyrells, which are rich. They have a lot of this, like the supply for the kingdom. They are probably the second richest family behind the Lannisters, but they have a ton of men. So that's a great position that they're in, but that is a short-lived power struggle between brothers, as Stannis has small numbers, but he's got a handy helper. So let's talk about the Tyrells, which I guess technically it's Renly Baratheon in charge, but it's the Tyrell family that really matters in this dynamic. So you have Marjorie, who has already married Renly, but not consummated, so it doesn't count. And then you have her brother Loras, who we had seen. He's a great knight, and he had a relationship with Renly. And
they're not married, but they've consummated several times.
And when Marjorie wants to consummate because she knows they need an heir for this new powerful family, she says, do you need my brother to come in and help?
Yeah,
Or do you want me to turn around and you can pretend I'm him?
Which also is a great moment in these episodes, I feel like, because...
It's an earnest thing from her.
Yeah, and you see her a few times before, not a few times, like once or twice before that, and she has such an innocent look, and like... Renly really is like very charismatic.
He is.
And they do look good together. Like this
yes,
is very
they are both very
like
good-looking,
good
young, strong people.
But yeah, and then when she comes in and kind of drops that knowledge on him,
And her
like,
dress.
hey, I'm
like she
here.
thought that would work.
I know.
Yeah. And like she's totally unfazed by that though. Like it really is like a business. It's
Man.
business.
It's business, and
people.
yeah, because you see she's beautiful, and she does seem just innocent, ready to be this queen, but she also has a snarky little comment that she makes to Littlefinger. Like, I think pretty quickly you know Marjorie's here to play more than her brother is.
Yeah.
Well, her brother's here to play, but she's here to play the Game of Thrones.
Right. Yeah.
So they have an interesting. The other important character we get out of their dynamic is Brienne of Tarth, who is a woman who is very tall. She bests Loras Tyrell, who is often considered one of the greats. He hasn't been to war, but in tournaments, he is one of the great swordsmen of the realm, and she beats him. And
she did the mountain.
Yeah. She asked to be part of Renly's Kingsguard, which I believe is later called the Rainbow Guard. Fun fact.
It is. Yes.
So Brienne of Tarth is a really awesome character, very loyal. She's part of the Kingsguard for Renly, and Renly seems to be set up, and everyone is coming to Renly to play. They are Littlefinger comes to him, and Cat comes to him, and they're ready to play. And the Cat is, she comes and she's not there to like swear fealty, but she's there with a sensible like let's talk about, we both hate the Lannisters.
Yeah. Well, and he's definitely like the Baratheon that everyone actually thinks has a shot at the throne. Like anytime anyone brings up Stannis, everyone's just like, yeah, good one. But yeah, Rob's killing a ton of folks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So it is interesting, and there are some like really great scenes there. Littlefinger goes out to see Catelyn, like we had talked about, and he brings with him Ned Stark's bones, which was part of.
How do you know? I was thinking there, I was like, how do you know? I mean, that could be anyone's.
I don't know.
They didn't include the skull.
When you're married, you know, Mitchell. You can tell the bones.
The skeletal structure.
Yeah.
I would know this fibula anywhere. That radius is not my wife, you whore.
Well, I mean, he could have still had some skin on him.
Okay, let's move on.
But I know, I really like Catelyn in those scenes. I like when she puts Loras Tyrell in his place right off the bat. She has a commanding presence there right when she gets there. And when the two brothers are talking and they meet up, she's like, you're idiots, essentially. Like, you're children, and we need to be smart and kind of, I mean, like, I don't know if this is what her intention was, but it seems like have at least a temporary alliance of some sort to, take them out. And then it's also a great character moment for Stannis, because he's like, your husband supported my claim, so I'll give you a chance to leave, but if you're here in the morning, you're dead.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and that's, I feel like that's something that the Starks really are thinking, like, pretty far ahead, because they're like, okay, yeah, we're going to be our own kingdom, basically. But that's still, like, this war still needs to happen, because we don't want to just, like, Robb does have those peace demands, but I honestly didn't ever actually believe that they would actually want the war to just end for you know a month, and then have the Lannisters basically just come up and try to take the North again. Because
nobody wants 6 kingdoms, Rob.
Yeah, well, and so like for them to be able to have a king in the North, like they have to make sure that the king in the South is going to be someone that they're friends with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Renly does seem like maybe the best option.
The best option, yeah.
Right.
In the meantime, at Pike, Theon, who, you know, he was chanting King in the North. He was telling Robb that he's his brother. He had this great idea that, hey, you need ships, and my people have ships. And he seemed to always be like a snarky jerk, but he has a chip on his shoulder, but he seem to be really loyal to Robb. But very quickly, his father puts him in his place. And all of a sudden, Theon is desperately looking for approval from the man who had to give him away as part of a ward of war very early on. So let's go out to the Iron Islands. He shows up. He expects people to be like, oh, the prince is back, like the only living son of our king of the Iron Islands. The Iron Islands are the place where they are known for pillaging and stealing. They do not make their own things. They take their own things. And they are cold-hearted douchebags. And they are a fascinating story with a fascinating religious history as well. But what's they don't have very many redeemable qualities.
Yeah.
His sister comes to pick him up, but he doesn't know.
Right, yeah, which is a nightmare.
Did you know when she came?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I do remember that part because I was like, oh yeah, I hate this.
I was actually going to ask if accidental incest was just as bad as regular incest, and you answered it in your summary.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, it's just as likely in this world. I don't know if it makes it better or worse. I don't know. But Theon Greyjoy really does feel like this kid who went away to summer camp for a summer and was like the best person at basketball, like in the camp. And then when he came home, he expected his parents to know he was the best person at basketball in the camp without telling him. And like, it's just a rude awakening, and he has to become a lawyer now or something. Yeah. Like it's ridiculous. I don't know. And we kind of get hints of that, but he is given a lot more like attention and validation in Winterfell than he gets at home, for sure.
Yeah.
And he, like, we see him throughout the show. He is like a right hand man to Robb, really. Like he tells Robb, and it is his idea to go and like bring the ships,
which is a good war idea.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, like you're saying, he has been incredibly loyal. He saved Bran's life from the wildlings that crossed the wall. Piece of shit.
Yeah, because we do see he is a person of questionable honor for sure, especially when put next to like any of the Starks. Really, like just seeing the way he interacts and treats other people,
especially women.
You know that he is of lesser honor, really.
Yeah. But all the things he says, and like swearing his honor to Robb, being one of the first people to like be like, "You're king in the North," and everything says, and then just that moment of. Which is good that it happens quickly, but it is believable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that comes through from, I don't know the actor's name, but whoever plays his father, his performance feels very like, man, I betray my family. This guy was like my dad. Like you understand where he's coming from, but you still hate his guts for doing it, and he is a total piece of shit.
Yeah.
Well, because the dad, I mean, he's not sensible in the thing. He has a very one-track mind. Theon left when Theon was 9. After the war, he was ordered to go live as a ward, and that's kind of a punishment you often do when a house swears fealty. You'll take one of their children. Theon's brothers died in that war. His father now just has his sister Asha, who he is a big... Oh, no, not...
Yara.
In the book, she's... Asha or Osha. There's an Asha and an Osha in the books, and that's why they changed her to Yara, because we had already met Asha or Osha. Tonks. So it's interesting the loyalty he does have to his daughter, like, but he doesn't. He's like, "Did you steal those clothes? Why are you wearing that gaudy necklace?" Like, he immediately dismisses everything. And Theon has a pretty quick outburst, which I didn't remember and was quite impressed by. That he says, "You gave me away. Like, I am your son." Because they want to go now raid the North while it is weak because they are fighting the Lannisters. And he is going to go raid sea villages, which is something they do all the time. Whereas and with one ship called the Sea Bitch, and his sister is going to get 30 ships and go take Moat Cailin, which is more of a stronghold for the North. So this plan is unfolding. It doesn't seem military. It's military smart. It's not big picture genius, but that family dynamic is so apparent and believable so quickly that Theon is already at this point just mad that he doesn't get to betray the Starks the way his dad wants to now. He doesn't get to be part of it.
Right. Yeah.
And
there is a moment of him, even you see him with the letter to Robb that he then burns.
Oh, yeah.
There is a moment of him almost choosing to side with the Starks and like warn them about what is coming, and then he decides not to.
And Katie and I were talking about it. Like, do you think if he would have tried to go back, they would have even let him live? Like, would they have chased him down? And like, we were thinking if that was even a real option for him to go back. Which I didn't think of when I first watched the show, but it would have been an interesting concept to be like, is he just playing along? Like, that type of thing. But
that is it. Yeah, I definitely see a lot more nuance in that story. The first time I watched it, I had a lot of disinterest in it, but it shows a lot. And then at the end, I think you actually get a better taste. He kind of undergoes a baptism. I don't know if that character is important in the show as he is in the books, but that storyline is much bigger in the books, and his uncles are a much bigger part of things. And so he is baptized, and their big saying is, "What is dead may never die," and they praise the drowned god. And you can kind of see that he is pissed off, but now he wants to prove himself in that realm. Because with the Starks, he was thought of as like, he was there with Robb and Jon. He was well trained. He was ready to be part of that, and now things have quickly turned for him, and he has to start from scratch. But you already see that culture starting to just take him over.
Right.
But definitely the least interesting of the new characters, or the new worlds that we're in. But it also hasn't had a chance to develop yet.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of the real fun stuff happens with Tyrion, like kind of the reunion of like Tyrion into established society, which we have not seen him in.
Yeah, but man, he fits so quickly. Seen him.
Yeah,
his entrance is wonderful. And it's just in the middle of this party, Joffrey's just being the center of attention, and he's just like, "We didn't catch you on the battlefield."
Yeah,
it was pretty badass.
I love it.
Yeah, and he, I think that you really get to see Tyrion like in his element in these first 4 episodes too, because as he comes in as acting hand to the king, a position which over the last year 2 men have been murdered essentially while holding that position, and he immediately starts playing to make sure that will not happen to him.
He makes huge power plays for Pycelle and Lancel.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Lancel thing is I love that scene so much. But yeah, he also institutes Bronn as the Lord Commander of the City Guard.
Oh yeah, and he sends the City Guard former leader up to the wall.
Yeah, yeah. And then he is immediately in the first season, we got to see Ned Stark be like a Detective Stark, like going around and asking everyone questions. And like Tyrion's like, that sounds like a lot of work. I'm going to let them come to me, essentially. And he just drops these juicy bits of information and sees which one falls out the other end of the pipe. And then he knows, like him setting up the 3 lies of giving Myrcella away to like 3 different families to Varys, Littlefinger, and Pycelle.
Such a good play.
And
that's one of the best sequences in like the whole show. I feel like that wraps.
Yeah,
it's like the stand-up moment of like, this is what this show is about.
Well, and it's like also from a filmmaking perspective, it's like so economically shot. Like the way they're like cutting interchangeably, like from one person to the
follows
next.
Tyrion, then cuts back and it's someone else.
Yeah, so good. It's like it's such a great. And immediately it makes you as a viewer feel smart.
Yep.
Because you're in on it. Like it's ridiculous that they can do that, but it's really great. And then that scene, it gives that scene where Cersei gets real mad at him, some real incredible weight. Because the actual text of that scene doesn't actually affect the plot at all. It's all of what you already know going into that scene and what you learn from just the simple name of what family she says. Like, who is the rat? You know, it's very good, very good. But that's what we've come to expect. We love Tyrion on this podcast. I feel like I love Tyrion.
No, I think I think it's pretty clear that like he's a fan favorite. I mean, there's so many fan favorites since there's so many characters. But I mean, like, he is the guy that you can just sit and listen to talk because that's all he can do. And it's so entertaining and so well written that, like, I don't know. He's what you said about I think it was last episode. I can't remember about Catelyn being like you're always rooting for her. Like. Even when Tyrion has an idea that I'm like, I'm not sure if that's morally correct, but I love this guy, so...
And he doesn't want to sit on the throne. I think that's important about a handful of characters in the show, that they don't, in the end, actually want their butt on the Iron Throne. They want to survive. They want to put themselves in the best position for whoever wins and whatever the future lies in store. Another thing, you just said that it kind of made me think, we spent a lot of time in King's Landing in these first few. There are some storylines that get a little less play, like Jon and Dany and Arya get some brief but important developments. And it made me think that watching this show, I remember watching it the second time through. This is my third. I had a lot better familiarity with the characters, because I think going through seasons 1 and 2, if you don't know the name of a character, that is fine. Like, you might not know an important character's name, and there's just so much going on.
They might only say those characters' names once or never.
And so it's just so keeping track of people. And then I was also very aware of in which episode who was missing from the episode or who got a lot of screen time in the episode. And I like watching in chunks of 4 episodes or so, because you get a little bit from everyone, but you'll say, okay, this is almost half the season, and the foundations are built for each of these stories going forward, and we get to see what's going to come of them. You have a large subset of information from each storyline going forward. So what storyline, we've kind of touched on the newer ones. Is there a character that was around in season 1 that you're particularly excited about going forward into the rest of season 2? I can start here just because I just threw that at you guys. Arya is in this position, which
talked about her yet.
She goes to Harrenhal, where right now the Hound's brother, the Mountain, is got this band of guys, and they are torturing and killing one prisoner per day. Harrenhal is like this cursed old castle where they had a very important tournament. It's a super interesting place, and then you think Gendry's about to die, which Arya already has saved Gendry's life once by saying that the kid that they killed was Gendry, and now her and Hot Pie and Gendry are in this pen, and it's disgusting ways. She is falling asleep, saying this is a motif where she says the names of the people she wants to die.
Good, yeah.
Oh, and it feels so good. I think Maisie Williams starts to, like, this anger really starts to just, like, we talked about her just being a tomboy in season 1. This anger and some of her wit is really starting to come into play, and it's really going to matter a lot because she gets because Tywin Lannister comes in and he's about to change what's going on here. This is kind of going to be his base of play,
right? And I think with Arya, you see how, like, quick mentally Arya is in these episodes too, because that boy does get killed, and then they immediately start asking about Gendry, and she's like, "Oh, that's Gendry."
Yeah.
See, like, Gendry. Not even answering.
He blamed a little bit. Well, you did stab him in the throat.
Yeah, but like that moment, and then also the moment when Tywin Lannister shows up, and I love Tywin Lannister showing up because he's just like, "Here's a fucking girl right here." Like, you guys
he knew.
It's like, yeah, this is very clearly a girl. Why are you pretending to be a boy? And she's like, "Oh, it's easier to travel." And he's like, "And she's smart." You know what I mean?
Appreciates it. And he's already like, this is being run like a bunch of idiots. Like, this is some sort of gang.
That's the thing that doesn't happen in the book. I don't think Tywin Lannister ever goes to
not.
Harrenhal, and it sets up one of the best, like, relationships.
We talk about anticipating character crossover, and we've already seen, like, Tyrion has so much fun scenes with everyone he meets as he travels around and now he's located in one spot, and so to see Arya and Tywin, which Tywin is I wouldn't say he's less important, but he's more present, and he is a whole lot of fun to watch, and he comes in right after, and Oh, I also want to mention that Hot Pie pees himself. So this is a good moment.
Yeah, no, that is a good moment. I love that, like, that's a great scene for a number of reasons. I don't like that character. I didn't really like that character until that moment, because, like, he's kind of just there to, like, be obnoxious to Arya.
And he tries to be a bully and stuff, and now you kind of see him show through a little bit more.
Yeah, but, like, that moment when he, like, stands up close to the fence and just, like, stares down the mountain the entire time because that guy told him to, and then they do take that guy. Yeah. Like, that is a really cool moment. And yeah, I do.
That environment is interesting. Sorry, Arya's a prisoner for a long time in the books, having to like scrub, and she gets put through multiple leadership as people kill and fight, and she's in danger. You really feel like she's in danger of being raped, quite frankly. And so this is a slight twist where she is going through this torture, but there's a lot better dynamic about to come forward. So I'm pretty excited about her.
Yeah, but before we answered that question that was originally stated of which character, so we did bring up Arya's prayer of the names of she wants to kill, which she gets the idea from Yoren, who has one of my favorite monologues in this season of they're all the Night's Watch people he's bringing up to the wall are asleep, but only him and Arya are up, and he offers her a drink. She doesn't take it. She doesn't like that. He's like, you don't drink it for the taste. And then just like they start having this conversation, and then he starts talking about why he's in, what caused him to be in the Night's Watch, which fleshes out this character really nicely. It makes, I don't know, a character I didn't think they were going to delve into any very far. A lot more interesting. It helps make the world feel more real, but his story is very, it's basically just like his brother was killed by this guy named Willem, and for like a very long portion of his life, all he could think about was killing Willem. He's like, I don't even remember what my brother looks like. I remember Willem very clearly because he's all I thought about. He's all I wanted to kill forever. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, and then one day he strolled into town and I buried an axe in his head and his horse got me to the wall. Yeah. And I'm like, holy shit, this guy is awesome.
Well, and it's like, that's not the first time we've heard someone describe someone who was very important to them in their lives that they don't remember what they look like. Like Robert says the same thing about Lyanna. And is that her name?
Yeah,
is that right?
Lyanna
okay.
Stark.
And yeah, it does paint it like is another nail in the sign of like this is a bleak ass world. Yeah. Like where, you know, and it does help you to kind of see people don't remember the things that are important to them. Yeah. That's why this world is so insane and like crazy, and it is a really cool like moment that builds not only the character but the world.
Yeah, sure. And it's really well, and then it does like he does bring up like all I could do every night was just repeat his name, Willem, right. Willem, and that's where Arya gets the idea of every night she just repeats the names of the people she wants dead, and it's an interesting way that because he ends up dying that episode,
right.
And it's an interesting way for
not like probably 10 minutes after that moment in real time.
Yeah, a character that like is so small but had a huge impact, at least in one of the characters' storylines, like a massive impact of both saving her and then also just like it's a repeated theme throughout the rest of this show of her and her names, and it's like it just comes from him. Yeah. And she's had like, some interesting people like that in her life, like Syrio, Pharrell, and Yoren, and I don't know, that's one of my favorite moments of these 4 episodes is just that monologue. I think it's well written. I think it has a lot of impact. Have you thought of your character?
I haven't. Let me look a little more.
I would say the first time I watched it, and I don't know if this is a difference of opinion that we all have. I couldn't quite pick that up, but I immediately took to Stannis. I think a lot of it is his performance. Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned that earlier in a different episode of just both him and Tywin are these frail men in real life, but have such a commanding presence on screen. And just like I said, that intro of him and the fact that you know that, especially after episode 4 where you see like, oh, this woman's magic is actually real.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there are other hints about it earlier, but that time you're like, whoa, that's crazy. Like it just keeps breaking down more of those barriers that we haven't had as much fantasy until the end of last season, the beginning of this season. Right. And I don't know, that was the one I was most excited for because like, there's an interesting dynamic between him, Melisandre, and we haven't even mentioned Davos, who's just freaking awesome.
He's a cool character. Yeah, I mean,
Davos.
I think Stannis is really interesting just because I'm intrigued by him, and he's like also like on its face, like him as a character is one of the least like one of the less interesting things. Like if I'm to list off his like character traits, I'm like, oh, this guy is 70 years old and he's teaching Bran to do shit. Like he sounds like a maester. But he is such an intriguing character. Because he is very dry, but he's so driven too. Mm-hmm. Like it's a really bizarre thing. He just seems like a middle manager somewhere.
And I think something, especially after episode 4 of that reveal of her magic being real, lends more weight to her opinion that he is like the chosen one.
Right.
And so all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, this guy who really doesn't have as much of a shot, at least we've been told by everyone, at taking the throne, now seems a lot more likely.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's the thing, and it's one of those things. I'm not sure if that's something like from watching that. To me, it's not apparent if that's something in Stannis or if he is just a convenient vehicle for her to get what she wants, which I don't know what that is yet.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah,
I'm intrigued by her because she is incredibly powerful, apparently, and can give birth to shadows. It's scary.
I like Davos so much. I think that's one of the reasons I like Stannis is because Davos has this, and we haven't kind of seen him really blossom yet, but he witnesses that, and that is going to set something off. And just before that, he is very loyal, but he also seems to be a lot smarter. I don't know if have we heard his backstory or anything yet?
They've like hinted at it. Like we know that. I mean, I know him as the Onion Knight.
Yeah,
I do remember that from the books, and like. But he does have that conversation with Stannis right at the end of that episode before he takes Melisandre to purge demons from her pregnant belly. That we know that Stannis cut off his fingers and he like carries them around with him, and they're both like these. It's funny because they kind of have this conversation where he's like, can't believe you carry those fingers around. He's like, it's just because I'm so honorable, and he's like, that's what I like about you is you're so honorable. Like they're such a weird. There's these next door neighbor dads that just like both angry about the same things but still fight about it for some reason. Like it's such a bizarre, interesting dynamic that we haven't seen, and so it is really fun. I'm interested to see deeper into kind of what goes on with them. But
speaking of incest, I want to talk about Craster's Keep a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So Jon has headed north of the Wall with a huge contingent of the Night's Watch. They're going to go figure out what happened to Benjen, what's going on in the north, because apparently villages are empty. There seems to be a gathering with the King Beyond the Wall, Mance Rayder, who is a former Night's Watch deserter, and they make a pit stop at Craster's Keep, which is a man who has many wives and many daughters who also happen to be his wives, and only females, and him, and he has a warm place where he they bring their own food and they bring him, a few bribes and stuff, and he lets them stay, and it's clear that this is like an antagonistic but necessary relationship. And that's pretty much said towards the end, but I think you feel it pretty early. Like, clearly this guy's an a-hole, but they kind of have to deal with him. So, one of Craster's daughters catches the eye of Sam as he tries to help her with something, and then Craster hates Jon immediately just because of the way Jon looks, because Jon he feels something so wrong here, and that kind of goes wrong.
Yeah, and you definitely still see Jon's like superiority
complex.
Yep. You know what I mean? Like he still does think of himself, I think, as more important than a lot of people in the room. You know?
Like when he calls them Southerners and he just like is like, excuse me. No.
My brother's the king in the north.
Yeah. But I do think I'll be honest, I couldn't help but think of Sam as just kind of a very neckbeardy behind his keyboard dude that had never spoken to a woman before. And
you're not supposed to speak to these women, but he can't help it. This poor pregnant girl.
Yeah, he's just such a white knight. He just wants so badly to save this girl. And it's funny because I wasn't sure how I was supposed to read the scene. Because he wants to take her with them. He talks to John
Yeah.
because she's pregnant, and if it's a boy, question mark. We don't, she
expresses concern,
right?
That if
because
it's a
there's
boy.
no boys around, and there's a lot of babies coming out.
Right, and then later we see like Craster taking the baby into the woods, and John follows, and something takes it. But when they actually are leaving, and he gives her, I couldn't tell. It's like a thimble kind of thing. Okay, he gives her that thimble and like does this story about his mom, and she's like, "This is kind of weird," and she's like, "You shouldn't just give it away," and he's like, "I'm not giving it away. I'm giving it to you," and she's like, "Cool, see ya."
Yeah,
like
I felt the same.
An awkward thing, and I don't know if it's just
she has no social understanding,
right?
And he's probably
and he
a social
doesn't
idiot.
Either. Yeah.
Oh,
like,
it's hilarious.
Yeah,
awkwardness.
I didn't know how to read it either because like it cuts back to him and he's like really pleased,
Yeah.
but then I'm like,
He's like, nailed it.
I didn't read it that way, so like
you got a lot to learn, bud.
She swiped right on that.
Yeah.
And
you don't have the thing your mom gave you. Congratulations.
What are you gonna remember your mom by now, Sam?
We know people forget lots of faces, so hope you got a good memory. But yeah, it is an interesting thing. We do hear Mance Rayder, like we do get some actual explicit information about him, which we haven't had until this point. We just kind of hear his name whispered by Asha. I don't remember how to pronounce the wildling's name. Asha. Yeah. Anyways. But yeah, it is an interesting thing. And it's introducing another like unknown, possibly supernatural element into the world of like, we don't know who these people are that are taking babies, but like also you see enough of the body it's like not fully dressed. It's not dressed like they are for the cold.
Yeah.
It's like in kind of rags. So it does imply some kind of ability beyond the normal humans of this world.
Which then gets them kicked out of Craster's Keep.
Right.
And they are rudely sent on their way.
Wait, has that part happened yet?
I believe so.
Where does that story end in the 4 episodes?
I don't remember.
Is it when he knocks John out? Has he taken him?
We see that.
He has not.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Because
and then
Mormont does come and talk to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, the gods are cruel.
And he
he
knows.
knows.
Yeah, it's like revealed that Mormont knows. I thought that was an interesting.
Yeah.
He pretty much says like, we've needed Craster. He's been a friend. And
he's been the difference between life and death for like all of our Rangers. Your uncle included. I'm pretty sure he says like
nailed it. And then let's cross the narrow sea over to Dany. Daenerys Targaryen, not a lot to do in these first few episodes.
Nope, not very much.
They're a little stuck right now, and she sends off her blood riders, and one comes back with his head in a bag.
Yeah.
But another comes back with an opportunity.
And that opportunity will present to you today a multi-level marketing scheme that isn't like the others. No, but he finds
you could become rich.
Yeah, he finds Karth, the Karthians.
I like when she says Quarth, and the guy is like, whose name we can't pronounce, so he won't tell us. He's just a friend and a merchant. I
did think it was weird. Has she, like, I was like, once I looked up how you spell Karth, I'm like, I get why you might pronounce it that way. But has she seen it written down?
I felt the same way when it...
I haven't thought of that.
They've said Karth several times,
yeah.
Danny. I don't know, maybe their Dothraki accents made it seem different. I don't know.
He was saying Quarth.
Yeah. But yeah, and we still don't see the inside of Karth. We just know that they do. She will not show them the dragons.
That's where that ends, is them opening the gates, right?
Yeah, just the guy basically vouching for them, which I'm not sure why he does that.
Zaro, Zoandaxis.
Yeah.
So Karth is an interesting place. They call it the greatest city ever is and ever was. That's actually all I should say about it, because we've really just been introduced. But you know that there are 13 leaders, and this guy who's speaking to her is not a royal, but a merchant. But so clearly, money has something to do here. But he really wants to see her dragons, and she doesn't really want to give that chip out there. And she starts talking above what really matters, because they could die if they don't get let in. Yeah. And she kind of glances over her dragons right now. We've seen her in the first couple episodes where they were dying in the waste or just walking through the waste. Her dragon's like perched on her shoulder. They're slightly bigger, I'd say, in the finale, but they really are still these tiny things.
Yeah, they
and
can't
they're saying
fly.
No one living has seen a dragon. They really want to see him, and they don't. But Zaro vouches for her again with blood, and and she is hopefully about to have a little bit more happen because they really are just sitting around the Red Waste.
Yeah.
For the Dothraki I think it's the Red Waste for 3 episodes. Yeah. 3.5 episodes.
That's a long time. But yeah, that I think we need to talk about Joff. Joff is an asshole. Joff is a huge asshole.
Beating the whores that his uncle offered
gosh.
to him. He then is like on a streak, and Sansa comes into the throne room. He's just berating her for the fact that her brother has captured Jaime and defeated his dad's army. Like it's her fault. She's a traitor. And then he wants Maren Trant to strip and beat her in front of everyone.
Yeah, I will say the scene with the whores feels a little heavy-handed to me. It was very long.
It was,
in a way that was.
Is that even in the book?
I don't know.
I don't remember it.
I think it is.
But it was so off-putting. I don't know. It was one of those things is like, I could have used a little bit less of that and gotten to the same place.
I thought he was too naive even to stomach that. And it just shows his disgustingness to see, the spanking turn into a beating, and then he gives her like instead of a belt or whatever, he gives her a giant pole and is really. But those whores, this is the king. You will die if you don't do what he says, and that is it shows the mistreatment of power under Joffrey, and I think it's pretty universally like we're already starting to get a hint that like people know Joffrey's not a good person, even the people who technically support his reign. Yeah,
well, you kind of, you're getting that from. You start to see it in Cersei a little bit, and the Hound. I mean, I think we've seen that before. The Hound, is still a mystery to us,
right?
But we do know that he does have a sense of honor to some extent because he is pretty faithfully serving the Lannisters, but also there are a couple moments with Sansa where he like gives her a handkerchief or stuff like that that's like really small that we're starting to see kind of glimmers of that. I will say probably the most recurring note I have from these 4 episodes is Cersei is pissed. Cersei, a lot of stuff is, I think, not going the way Cersei wanted it to go. Yeah. And especially since, when Tyrion shows up, he's like, okay, you killed Ned Stark and you lost a little girl who are 2 of our most valuable assets we had in this coming war. And then also... she can't control Joffrey. Joffrey is pushing back in very big ways in these episodes. And she also, the scene where she does confront Tyrion about giving Myrcella to the Martells, which he is not doing, but is the thing that he has, put forward to kind of find out who is talking to who, essentially. She is a lot less in control than we've seen her probably the whole first season. She is definitely out of sorts and making a lot of mistakes in the game that she is playing.
You mean the Game of Thrones?
Where she will win or die.
Yeah, I think she probably has. I don't think this is ever like explicitly said or anything. I'm sure part of her losing it is I'm sure she really doesn't want her father to come home and see the mess she has made in the living room. Like,
this started out as a really fun party, but then Jason brought all of his football friends over and their brother ordered a keg, and now this house is a mess.
But yeah, that scene where she slaps him is really good.
Yeah.
And really just shows the extent of how much control she has lost. And the fact that he doesn't have her killed immediately. He's like, if you ever do that again, you're dead.
Yeah.
But basically just like, because you're my mom, I'm letting this slide.
Yeah.
But, and like, this show's so good. This show's just, things you didn't think were going to happen. People turning on each other in different ways and different levels is just phenomenal. And that relationship between that mother and son is one I didn't think, I knew it had to go somewhere, but I didn't think it would go this far, this quickly, but also feel as natural as it does.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's very good.
I think the only one we haven't really touched on is Rob.
Yeah.
Still winning.
Rob's still winning.
He's got
all
Jaime
he does is win,
captured, and Jaime's still trying to be a little twerp and just antagonize and and scheme. And Rob has also he has a woman from the East who
he's really turned on by amputations.
Yeah, super
Right,
into it.
yeah.
But she's like a nurse, and she kind of is giving him the commoner side of war. Like, you're fighting for these titles when these people are dying. Yeah. And she kind of does a great job of continually throwing it back in his face. And you can see Rob start to gain a little bit more perspective.
Right. And I do think the interesting thing to me about Rob too is I think one of the main reasons that Rob is seeing success is because he doesn't make the mistake that a lot of people make, which is to underestimate his enemies. Like when he, this is from when he first captures Jamie, but I don't think we talked about it explicitly.
No, we didn't.
It's like Jamie's like, we could end this whole thing right now, you and me, let's fight. And Rob's like, well, yeah, if we do it that way, you're gonna win. So we're not gonna do it that way. Like he doesn't let his pride or his like ego drive his decisions. And I mean, with what's going on with Theon, I can feel the tides are turning on that in some way. But strategically, he's had a pretty good head in this war, and he has made tough decisions that like his seniors like did not think would be good ideas, like when he lets the spy go to basically misdirect the Lannisters. Everyone thinks he's crazy, but he really does. I think he is, watching him kind of grow into the leadership is a slow thing, but it's kind of cool to see. And it is paying off for him, you know, in war. So
with new characters, was Filch in season 1?
Yeah.
He gets introduced there. That's when they get permission for the twins thing.
In season 1.
So he's doomed to marry a
swamp woman.
But like,
so is Arya, a swamp man, a swamp thing. I may even.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Arya.
Just seeing him make alliances and figure out what to do is good, because like the war is coming. You know, I mean, he's already doing these battles, but he's trying to position himself, and now, you know, his mom is working as his emissary, and it's a debate whether like that's good or bad, or she wants to tell him what to do. Like his dynamic of how to handle that power is super interesting, because clearly he's good at the battle part, but he is also his father's son and needs to play the game better than Ned did.
Yeah, and that is something that I think we're seeing more across the board. Is like the first season of Game of Thrones kind of, I think, lures you into the fantasy trope of like honor wins out and like good triumphs, and is like, screw that. Like, this is the smartest person, or in some cases the luckiest person, is going to be the one to win. There's no, you know, there's no like explicit reward for being good in this world.
It's like the real world.
Yeah.
Because Joffrey is not all that non-Trumpian.
Yeah, Game of Thrones is great because it lets us know like what happens when people stop pretending and they get real.
It's the real world of Westeros.
But I do think we kind of touched on it, but the moment, and this is from earlier episodes, but we just forgot, and I just want to point out this moment is when Catelyn comes back and tells Rob the requirements for them to cross the river, and he knows that he has to marry one of them. He's like, did you see his daughters? And she's like, yep. And he's like, and she's like, one of them's okay. It's like, that's just a really cool, like, real moment, I feel like, in that whole exchange. But yeah, so we're kind of, he's winning. Like, that is nothing.
Would you say the winner of these first 4 episodes is Roberto?
I would, if I have to choose winners all the time, it's probably Tyrion.
Oh, yeah.
Tyrion does some crazy shit.
That's true. He makes a ton of moves, and it's funny because right now, battle moves and political moves, like killing 5,000 of their men, that what Tyrion does is probably as valuable as that.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of I like what's happening with Tyrion too, because a lot of what he's doing, especially in these episodes, is self-preservation. But there's also the added element of Shay, and he like actually cares for her, and I feel like that complicates things a little bit, because the scene when he comes home and Varys is like talking to her and they're both laughing, I was like, oh shit, oh man, what does Varys know now that like because no one's supposed to know that she's there.
His dad specifically says, "Don't bring the whore home."
Right. But yeah, that stuff's all so interesting. But yeah, Rob does make some. He really is. We see in that scene where him and Catelyn are mourning Ned. He is filled with anger. But there's a lot of points in this episode where you wouldn't know that.
Oh, when he's just swinging at the tree.
Very good decisions, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I had a thought about Bronn and Meryn Trant. So Meryn Trant is one of the Kingsguard, supposed to be like 7 of the best soldiers because they're there to guard. When he comes into Meryn's about to beat Sansa, and Tyrion comes in and he starts he comes at Joffrey in a way that like feels very scary and unsafe, but he does it with such boldness, and he slapped him before, which was a beautiful moment. But he just says, "Hey, if he says one more word, he's going to kill you." I'm like, cool Bronn is freaking awesome, but would he win that fight? I don't know.
But what I do know about Bronn is he if that guy moves, he's absolutely attacking that guy.
Yeah.
Like that's the cool thing to me about Bronn is I don't know that Bronn's the best warrior, but I do know that Bronn isn't going to hesitate. You know what I mean? When
he likes gold and
the money,
intercourse and killing.
I mean, and he's crafty.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
I mean,
the way he beat the
Servardis.
Yes, up at the alley.
And you can tell by looking at him, like, he is rough around the edges. He's in charge of the city guard now.
Yeah.
Everyone else has, like, this coiffed facial hair. Like, Meryn Trant has this dumbass haircut.
Oh, the straight bang.
Oh, it's so gross. And, like, Bronn's just like, I'll take my gloves off and fight you right now. Like, I'll do that. Like, he's just great. He's awesome. I like him a lot.
A character we don't mention a lot right now, and in some ways he's just a lapdog, is, oh boy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy.
What?
Come here, oh, boy.
With Khaleesi.
The guy from that Korean film.
Wait, Jorah Mormont?
Jorah Mormont. Okay, I actually really like Jorah. Mm-hmm. And, like, you can tell he's kind of pining for her, and he's trying to be this humble servant, and he's a helpful guide, and it's I think he's he does not get a lot to do in these first few episodes. I don't know if we talked about him enough last season, but I actually think of him as a Bronn. He is a very strong wild card at the side of one of our players.
And he handles the sun a whole lot better than the Dothraki, apparently.
I know. He's fine in his armor and the Dothraki.
Everyone's like dying. They're all, you can like, even like the makeup job, like everyone's got like sunburn, their skin's peeling, but he looks tired. Yeah. But he just looks like he just went on a hike as opposed to dying in the desert.
That is the thing that I feel like I'm waiting for to be revealed about his character is, I mean, we know that he was exiled by Ned, right?
Yep, for selling
slaves. What we don't know is any of the details around that. At least, like, we know that his father has completely written him off because he gives his sword essentially to Jon Snow.
Oh, I want to talk about that because that's a Valyrian steel sword. There's only I even double checked it, and I think there's like 10 to 15 in the world, and the fact that he's willing to give it to Jon, like that's how much he believes. And he did save him from a white, but it's crazy. And Jorah seems to be this really stand-up guy, but yeah, he does have this past we don't know about. Right. But he also did get pardoned.
Yeah. Well, and everything we've seen of Jorah paints him in an extremely kind light.
Yes.
And so I'm waiting to see if we just are told that that's just how he is, or if we do see a darker side to him, or learn, you know what I mean, what that actually is. If he's, I want to know what he's actually carrying with him emotionally.
Yeah.
As far as his past.
Love the baggage.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I am interested because he's the only one now that he's been with Daenerys longer than anyone else in the show that we've seen, right?
He's the only consistent regular with Daenerys after Khal Drogo and her brother die.
Right.
He's been the constant, and now he's going to this unknown. I really like Essos. I don't think it's a spoiler to say we're going to see a little bit more of Essos, and just because Westeros seems to be this continent with this specific political ideology and battle, like I love the unknown and the exoticness of the East, and so I'm stoked to continue to see that roll along.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm worried we missed something important, but I can't think of what it is. How are your notes looking, Tyler? Have we gotten through a lot of your notes?
Let me look back through. We kind of talked about Renly at the beginning. I think that's some of the bigger stuff. We talked about most of Stannis' stuff.
Renly's in a great position, and he could pair with he might be the most well-positioned right now, and the Tyrells are super interesting. The creepy twins who are not incestuous, but apparently she wouldn't have minded if he was going to hang out there.
Because it's just business. That's the thing.
I was going to say, how awkward would it be if, like, Loras, like, wasn't okay with his sister being that she, like, invites him in. He's like, hey, what?
Yeah. That's...
We need an heir!
That is an interesting thing, and it does set them apart from, like, something like... I don't think of them as, like, the Lannisters. It's not like they're incestuous. It's just that they're so hungry for that throne.
Yeah.
They want that throne.
They throne thirsty.
Oh, is that conversation in? No, it's not. Nope. Never mind.
I mean, we talked about how Marjorie looks a little crafty, and Renly he's got an arrogance to him, and you see when him and Loras conflict a little bit over the Brienne thing, but he clearly has a lot of reasons that he is a fantastic, like, one of these, the War of the Five Kings.
Yeah. I don't think that we talked too much about the city guard. We do see them, just a montage of them killing kids that we didn't touch a whole lot on.
Killing bastards?
Yeah, they kill the
Robert,
most
you whore.
notable one is them coming into the whorehouse and killing the baby.
Yeah.
Which leaves Roz distraught, and Littlefinger's like, get back to work.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I hate Littlefinger. He's also dope character.
He's a very good character.
Very
and he
interesting.
settles into his accent by the end of the season. Don't you worry.
I mean, that aside, it is one of my favorite performances.
Absolutely.
Like, every scene he's in, I find myself digging like 2 or 3 levels deep to try to know why he's saying the things he is. Because even with the character that you think he is going to be the most honest with, which is Catelyn, he tells her, he's like, oh yeah, Sansa and Arya, they're fine. We got them. They're doing
He throws out
fine."
so many
And,
lies.
like, yeah, and that's like the one person that I feel like up till this point, we kind of think he's gonna be on her side, because when she comes to King's Landing, he helps them. He is working with Ned and Catelyn to kind of uncover that stuff, and
then he betrays Ned, but I feel like when he's there, he is setting up multiple possibilities. He is such a good double speaker. He is setting up one thing with Marjorie, and he's setting up another thing with Renly, and he is leaving it open. That leaves him in the most advantageous position. Yeah. If I'm Cersei, I don't let that dude leave. She knows what a snake he is.
Well, and they have a great scene. Their scene is so good when she's like, I heard a little story about this guy who's still in love with this girl that denied him when he was younger. And he's like, well, I heard this story about this brother and sister who are just boning on the reg. And he's like, that's what I always say, knowledge is power. And then she's like, has the guards like take him, she's like, slit his throat. And they're about to kill him. She's like, oh no, I changed my mind. And then like has them do these ridiculous things. And then she's like, power is power. And that was such a good moment. It was really cool.
We should mention that. So Stannis releases a letter to everyone saying that this is the first time. I'm sure there have been whispers and this or that, but now it really matters because it's about the throne. He releases a letter telling everyone, hey, this is an incestuous relationship, and these are not, I am the rightful king. And interesting how some people are like, but we don't want you to be king. And the North is like, we don't really want to be part of you.
Yeah. Well, and Ned only sent the letter to Stannis, which he says, like, I'm not going to make the same mistake Ned Stark did. We're sending this to everyone.
Right.
But it's like, coming from him, it's like, well, that's convenient. Like,
yeah, for sure.
And he and his brother, like, all 3 brothers, I don't know if it's to the detriment of the writing, but they are so different, the 3 Baratheon brothers. And you know, if there was an opportunity for those 2 brothers to join forces, they would absolutely win, but there's just no way.
Right.
Like, they're so different, and Catelyn would love to find some sort, like, the Lannisters are the real evil. Why can't we, one of so many groups, and like Theon's trying to bring his dad in, but nobody wants to be smart enough to work together. We talk about, everyone keeps saying, attack King's Landing, attack King's Landing, and it's like, man, there's too many pieces moving for anyone to actually get there.
Right. Yeah. And definitely these first 4 episodes do feel like it's setting up a whole bunch of new stuff. So a lot of stuff happens, but like we kind of said, like it's kind of spread between so many people that those individual journeys are a little bit less than maybe we saw in 4 episodes in season 1. I do want to touch on an interesting thing I caught just kind of at the end of these episodes we watched. We have the scene with Stannis and Davos that we talked about, and he talks to Davos. He mentions like the good that you've done doesn't discount the bad that you've done, but the bad also doesn't erase the good. You know what I mean? Like you basically get this idea that Stannis has this philosophy of like there is good and bad in everyone. And then immediately after that is Davos is taking Melisandre.
Oh yeah, I didn't catch that. Yeah,
she mentions, she's like, if there's rotten an onion, that onion is bad. And it's such an interesting. I don't know exactly what that means going forward, if that's going to be important, but it did stand out as like a very a not so subtle way of like separating Melisandre and Stannis, who we've seen.
Did we mention they bang?
Yeah, they really bang.
And she's like, he puts up a fight for like, what? I'm an honorable married man.
Yeah.
She hasn't given you a son. All right, let's bang. Let's bang with fire.
Which then ends up being a shadow. And is like, is he pissed about that? Like, I was expecting a human child to be my heir.
Yeah, is Stannis barren?
Oh,
is his sperm broke?
And the way her stomach moves, like the way it contorts, that actress like balls out, man. Wow.
Well, kind of.
That was bad. But she
Genitals
commits to it, and it is super. She is so good at being like this creepy, mysterious figure.
Yeah, it's funny because when I like picture her in the book, she's very different from who I pictured in the book. But she's way more appealing than who I pictured in the book for sure.
Yeah.
And
that's more mad. That's another big first supernatural.
Right.
Is her birthing the smoke monster.
Yeah. So.
Which was a little different than I thought. It has like, anyway, the claws, like it's more figurative. It's eerie. Like it's a scary moment. And like in this cave.
Yeah. Davos is just losing shit.
Yeah. Like, why did Davos have to witness this? Oh, he's just against the wall.
Because like he didn't even know she was like pregnant. And all of a sudden she's like naked and giant. That poor man is going through so much in that scene.
He's like, man, how do I get around this wrought iron thing that wasn't here the last time I was here? And she's like, I got this. Strips naked, like lays down. It's like, okay.
The demon gestation period is very fast.
And then Murder Shadow comes out, and poor guy is just like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, I mean, Davos
that ride back was awkward.
Oh. And like I thought Davos won't die. I was like, oh, I thought this guy was really cool, and he's gone. And the smoke monster does not instantly kill Davos, but
I was very scared for him.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a lot of. I feel like these episodes are a lot of setup.
Yeah. Well, like again, Rob's army kind of has another victory that we don't see.
Right.
So, I think I enjoyed those new characters emerging so much that I didn't realize it's a lot of table setting.
Yeah.
These first 4, because we talked about an episode in season 1 how there was 1 to 2 episodes that were really taking a step back from movement, but they were important. There were people in rooms talking. There was enjoyable character development, and not that by any means these first episodes are bad, but they are really building and building.
Well, and there isn't a Ned Stark in these episodes.
Yeah.
There's not someone.
You don't have a primary protagonist who's in the game.
This is who I'm rooting for. Like it does. I feel like start to fragment the narrative a little bit in that way.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. So.
Yeah, the closest thing I guess would be Rob because he's winning. Right. He's Ned's son.
He's Ned Jr.
Yeah. But he's fighting this war, but there's so much else going on in this world. Yeah. Cool beans. Any other final thoughts on episodes 1 through 4 of season 2 of Game of Thrones on the home box office
on
network?
DVD?
On DVD.
Blu-ray DVD.
No, I think that's it.
I'm very excited. Big things are coming, and yeah. So we'll see you next time
on
this
Unnamed
podcast.
Game of Thrones podcast.